A flight attendant's smile is a mask. We see kindness, but what hides beneath? For 10-year-old twins Maya and Mia, that mask melted away the second they tried to board their first-class flight. "Economy is that way, dears," the attendant sneered, blocking them from their seats. She accused their mother of fraud and tried to have them thrown off the plane, all while a line of wealthy passengers watched. But this flight attendant, Lydia Finch, made one catastrophic mistake. She had no idea that the quiet, unassuming man watching her from the back of the line wasn't just another passenger. He was Robert Sinclair, and he owned the entire airline. The cavernous expanse of JFK's International Terminal 5 was a symphony of organized chaos. Suitcases wheeled over polished floors, announcements echoed in a dozen languages, and the air buzzed with the nervous energy of departure. For 10-year-old twins Maya and Mia Sinclair, it was the sound of the greatest adventure of their lives. They were not new to flying. Their father's work meant airports were as familiar as their own school, but they were new to this. "Wow," Mia whispered, her eyes wide, clutching her brand-new unicorn backpack. She and Maya were identically dressed in comfortable red tracksuits, their hair intricately braided. They stood at the entrance to the Astrolux Horizon Lounge, a discreet entrance hidden behind a frosted glass wall. Their mother, Sarah Sinclair, a woman with an easy smile and sharp, intelligent eyes, handed their invitations to the desk agent. "Sinclair, party of 4, she said. The agent's professional demeanor brightened instantly. "Of course, Mrs. Sinclair. Welcome. Mr. Sinclair is already in the Concorde suite taking a call. Can I show you and the girls to him?" "We'll find him," Sarah smiled, taking the girls by the hand. "Thank you." The lounge was less an airport waiting area and more a 5-star hotel lobby. Soft carpets muffled every sound, waiters drifted by with trays of champagne and sparkling water, and the quiet hum of successful people murmured in the air. The girls had only ever glimpsed it before. Today they walked right in. Their father, Robert Sinclair, waved from a secluded suite overlooking the tarmac. He was a tall man, dressed in a simple, dark grey cashmere sweater and jeans. He lacked the flash of the other lounge patrons. His power was in his stillness. He was the founder and majority stakeholder of the Sinclair Group, the global conglomerate that had acquired Astrolux Airlines 3 years prior. To the world, he was a titan. To Maya and Mia, he was just Dad. "There are my travelers," he said, ending his call and scooping both of them into a hug. "Are you two ready for London?" "Are we really sitting in the front?" Maya asked, her voice hushed. Robert chuckled. "Seat 1A and 1B, the very front. You'll practically be flying the plane." "Mrs. Sinclair," a personal concierge approached. "Flight 100 is now priority boarding at Gate 22. We can escort you down whenever you're ready." "Robert, you finish your work. We'll start heading down," Sarah said. "I'm right behind you," Robert promised. "I just need 5 more minutes with the London office. Don't let them take off without me." Sarah laughed. "I think they'll wait for you." Sarah, Maya, and Mia made their way through the exclusive lounge tunnel that led directly to the jet bridge, bypassing the main terminal entirely. They joined the first-class and diamond medallion line. The plane was an Airbus A350, the crown jewel of the Astrolux fleet, its new branding gleaming under the lights. At the aircraft door, 2 flight attendants stood ready. One was a young man in his early 20s, Ben, who smiled warmly. The other was the purser, a woman in her late 50s. Her uniform was immaculate, her blonde hair pulled into a severe bun, and her name tag read Lydia Finch. Her eyes were a pale, cold blue, and they were doing a rapid, silent inventory of every passenger who boarded. When Sarah and the twins stepped forward, Ben said, "Welcome aboard." Lydia cut him off with a raised hand, her smile fixed and artificial. Her gaze drifted over the twins' red tracksuits, over their excited faces, and over Sarah's simple travel clothes. The smile did not reach her eyes. In fact, it faltered, replaced by a fractional, almost invisible sneer. "Good afternoon," Sarah said, holding out their boarding passes. Lydia Finch did not take them. She crossed her arms, physically blocking the entrance to the first-class aisle. "Oh, dears," she said, her voice dripping with a sickly, false sweetness. She bent down slightly toward Maya and Mia. "I'm afraid you've taken a wrong turn. The economy cabin is to the right, all the way at the back of the aircraft." The flow of passengers stopped. A man in a tailored Armani suit sighed impatiently behind Sarah. Sarah's smile tightened. She was used to this. Not this blatant, perhaps, but the subtle barbs, the assumptions, the second looks. She held the boarding passes out more firmly. "You must have misheard me. We are in first. Seats 1A, 1B, and 2A. Lydia Finch finally took the tickets, holding them between two fingers as if they were a soiled napkin. She glanced at them, and her expression hardened. "Mrs. Sinclair," she said, the Mrs. sounding like an accusation. "These are first-class tickets. This cabin is for our premium-paying clientele." "I'm aware," Sarah said, her voice dropping a degree. "Which is why we're here." "Yes, well," Lydia said, her voice loud enough for the passengers behind them to hear clearly. "There seems to be a very obvious mistake. This is highly unusual. These seats are typically reserved for our platinum tier members or full-fare passengers." Maya, who was usually the more confident of the two, shrank back. She could feel the eyes of the man behind them. Mia grabbed her mother's hand. "There is no mistake," Sarah stated. "Please let us get to our seats. We are holding up the line." "I am the purser on this flight, ma'am," Lydia snapped, her sweet facade evaporating completely. "It is my job to protect the integrity of this cabin. I see this all the time. People using fraudulent vouchers or other methods to get seats they didn't pay for. It compromises the experience for our actual guests." The implication hung in the air, thick and toxic. "You don't belong here. You cheated your way in." The young flight attendant, Ben, looked horrified. "Lydia," he whispered, "their names are on the manifest. I saw it. Sinclair." "Be quiet, Ben," Lydia hissed, not looking at him. "The manifest can be wrong. I need to verify these personally." She turned back to Sarah. "I'm going to have to ask you and your children to step aside into the galley. I need to call the gate agent. You are holding up the boarding process." "You're the one holding it up," Sarah said, her voice rising in controlled fury. "Scan the tickets. They are valid. My husband is on his way." Lydia let out a short, dismissive laugh. "Of course he is. Ma'am, step aside, now, or I will have Port Authority security remove you from my aircraft. You are creating a disturbance." Tears welled in Maya's eyes. This was supposed to be a magical trip. Now she felt like a criminal. Mia buried her face in her mother's coat. The businessman behind them, a portly man named Mr. Henderson, scoffed. "For God's sake, just get them out of here. I didn't pay $8,000 to listen to this. If they're not supposed to be here, remove them." Lydia gave Henderson a grateful, conspiratorial nod. "See, my passengers are being inconvenienced. Thank you for your patience, sir. I am handling the riffraff." She physically ushered Sarah and the two crying girls into the cramped galley, shoving them up against the beverage carts. She picked up the interplane phone. "Mark, this is Lydia Finch on Flight 100. I have a situation at door 1 left. A woman and 2 children with what appear to be fraudulent first-class tickets. They are being belligerent. I need you to come up here and handle them." Sarah was shaking with rage. She knelt to her daughters. "You listen to me, both of you. You did nothing wrong. You belong here. That woman is wrong. Do you understand me?" They both nodded, trying to stifle their sobs. The smell of in-flight coffee and disinfectant filled the galley, and the sound of the boarding passengers just feet away, the clack of designer heels, the quiet, judgmental murmurs, felt like 1,000 tiny needles. The galley of an A350 is a tight, metallic space. For Sarah, Maya, and Mia, it felt like a cage. Passengers boarding for business and economy classes streamed past the opening, their faces a mixture of curiosity, pity, and annoyance. The first-class passengers already seated, including the rude Mr. Henderson in 3A, had a clear view of the family being detained. Lydia Finch stood in the galley entrance, arms crossed like a warden. She had protected her cabin, and now she was waiting for the authorities to arrive and remove the problem. Ben, the junior attendant, hovered uselessly nearby, his face pale. "Lydia, please," he muttered, low enough for only her to hear. "What if you're wrong? This is my cabin, Ben," Lydia said, her voice like ice. "I've been flying for 25 years. You've been doing it for 6 months. I know a scammer when I see one. A mother and 2 children in tracksuits for a transatlantic first class suite? Please, they probably used a stolen credit card, and the chargeback will hit the airline in a week. I'm saving this company money." Her prejudice was so naked, so ingrained, she didn't even see it as prejudice. She saw it as experience. She saw herself as the vigilant guardian against the unwashed masses, the one who kept the Astrolux brand pure. The gate agent, Mark, hurried down the jet bridge, his tablet in hand. He was a man perpetually stressed, and this was not what he needed. "Lydia, what's the problem? We're on a tight turnaround." "This woman," Lydia said, gesturing to Sarah as if she were a piece of garbage, "is refusing to accept that her tickets are invalid. She and her children are not seated in 1A, 1B, and 2A. I need you to escort them back to the terminal." Mark looked at Sarah, then at the crying children. He sighed. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but if the purser has identified an issue, can I see your boarding passes and your passports, please?" "Here," Sarah said, her voice shaking with the effort of staying calm. "Here are our passes. Here are our passports. Sarah Sinclair, Maya Sinclair, Mia Sinclair. Our tickets were purchased on our corporate account. My husband, Robert Sinclair, is in 2B. He is boarding right now." Mark typed the name Sinclair into his tablet. His fingers froze, his head snapped up, and he looked at Sarah with a completely new expression. It was raw panic. "Lydia," Mark said, his voice a choked whisper. "Lydia, stop." "Don't you Lydia me, Mark," the purser retorted, not noticing the change in his demeanor. "Just get them out. I have pre-departure champagne to serve. These people are bothering Mr. Henderson in 3A. "Lydia, for the love of God, listen to me," Mark hissed, grabbing her arm. "The name. Look at the name. Sinclair." "I see the name," Lydia snapped, pulling her arm away. "It doesn't mean anything to me. It's probably a fake name to match a stolen card." At that precise moment, the final passenger walked through the open doorway of the aircraft. It was Robert Sinclair. He was no longer on his phone. His face, usually so calm and unreadable, was thunderous. He had heard the last part of Lydia's outburst as he walked down the jet bridge. He paused at the threshold, his eyes taking in the entire scene in one devastating sweep. His daughters crushed against a metal cart, their faces streaked with tears. His wife, standing tall but vibrating with fury, holding out their passports. The gate agent, Mark, looking like he was about to have a heart attack. Mr. Henderson, watching from his seat with a smug, annoyed look. And Miss Lydia Finch, standing guard, her face a mask of bitter, self-righteous authority. He stepped onto the plane. "Is there a problem here?" he asked. His voice was not loud, but it cut through the cabin noise like a razor. Lydia Finch turned, ready to dismiss this new arrival, assuming he was the husband she had already labelled a co-conspirator. "Sir, this is a private matter I am handling with the gate agent," she said dismissively. "These individuals do not have valid tickets for my cabin. I must ask you to step aside." Robert Sinclair did not move. He looked past her, at his wife. "Sarah, are you okay? Girls?" "We're fine, Robert," Sarah said, her voice tight. "This employee has accused us of fraud and refuses to let us sit down. She wants to have us arrested." "I see," Robert said. He looked back at Lydia. His gaze was so intense, so cold, that for the first time, a flicker of doubt entered her eyes. She was used to people cowering. This man didn't cower. "Sir," Lydia began again, her tone slightly less confident. "I'm sure there's just been a misunderstanding, but my manifest is clear. These seats are, well, they're not for them. If you'll just step back into the terminal with your family, we can get this sorted out." "You are Lydia Finch," Robert stated. It wasn't a question. He had read her name tag. "You are the purser on this flight." "I am," she said, drawing herself up, trying to regain her authority. "And you are?" "I am Robert Sinclair," he said. "This is my wife, Sarah. These are my daughters, Maya and Mia. We are in seats 1A, 1B, 2A, and 2B. You will stand aside and let my family take their seats." Lydia was taken aback by his tone, but her prejudice was a deep and stubborn root. She crossed her arms again. "I don't care who you are. Robert Sinclair means nothing to me. I have a protocol to follow, and my protocol says you are not boarding this aircraft." "Your protocol," Robert said, his voice dangerously quiet, "involved making my 10-year-old daughters cry. Your protocol involved accusing my wife of fraud in front of a full cabin. Your protocol involved publicly humiliating my family based on—" "What exactly, Miss Finch? Their tracksuits? Their skin color?" "How dare you!" Lydia gasped, clutching her chest as if mortally wounded. "This has nothing to do with that. This is about procedure. I am protecting this airline." "You are this airline, Ms. Finch," Robert said, "and you are failing." "That's it!" Lydia shrieked, her composure shattering. "Mark, call security. I want them all off. I'm pressing charges for harassment." Mark, the gate agent, finally found his voice. He was trembling. "Lydia, shut up! That is Mr. Sinclair, as in the Sinclair Group, as in the man who owns Astralux Airlines." The words detonated in the small galley. The cabin, which had been full of quiet murmurs, went deathly silent. You could hear the faint whine of the auxiliary power unit on the tarmac. Mr. Henderson, the businessman in 3A, froze, his complimentary glass of orange juice halfway to his lips. Ben, the junior attendant, looked like he might faint. Lydia Finch's entire body went rigid. Her face, which had been flushed with rage, drained of all color, leaving a sickly, pale mask. Her eyes darted from Mark's terrified face to Robert's cold, furious one. What did you say?" she whispered. Robert Sinclair took a small, black, metal card from his wallet. It wasn't a credit card. It was his Astralux executive pass. It had his name, his photo, and one word, Chairman. He held it up for her to see. Lydia's eyes locked onto the card. Her brain seemed to short-circuit. The connections were made, all at once, in a catastrophic, horrifying flood. The name, the quiet authority, the corporate account, the confidence of his wife, the gate agent's panic, Sinclair, the Sinclair Group, owner, Mr. Sinclair. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. A small, choking noise escaped her throat. She looked at the two little girls she had called riff-raff. She looked at the woman she had accused of fraud. And she looked at the man she had just tried to have thrown off the plane. The man who signed her paycheck. The man who owned the plane. The man who owned everything. The silence in the galley was absolute, broken only by the sound of Lydia Finch's short, ragged breaths. She was hyperventilating, her pupils blown wide with sheer, unadulterated terror. The mask of authority was gone, ripped away to reveal the panicked, bigoted woman beneath. Mr. Sinclair, she stammered, her hand fluttering to her throat. I didn't know. Robert Sinclair's expression was unrelenting. You didn't know, he repeated. So this is how you treat passengers you don't know. The ones who don't own the company. You assume they are criminals? You bully them? You humiliate their children? No, it wasn't. It was a misunderstanding, she pleaded, her eyes darting around wildly, looking for an ally. There were none. Ben was staring at the floor. Mark was actively backing away. The passengers, including Mr. Henderson, were frozen, watching the corporate execution. It was not a misunderstanding, Miss Finch, Robert said, his voice resonating with cold finality. A misunderstanding is checking the wrong seat number. What you did was a calculated act of discrimination. He stepped forward, and Lydia flinched back, pressing herself against the beverage cart. Robert ignored her, kneeling to his daughters. Mia, honey, he said gently, his voice transforming instantly. This is all over. This woman made a terrible mistake. You belong here more than anyone. Let's get you to your seats. He helped a still shaking Maya and Mia, who clung to their mother, navigate around the purser and into the aisle. He pointed to seats 1A and 1B, the ultra-luxurious suites at the very front. There you are. Go ahead. Pick one. As the girls shuffled past, Lydia reached out a trembling hand. Please, sir, Mr. Sinclair, I have worked for this airline for 25 years. 25 years. Robert stood up to his full height, turning to face her one last time. And in 25 years, how many others, Miss Finch? How many families who didn't own the airline did you get away with treating like this? How many people did you make feel small? How many children did you make cry? It was a mistake. I was following procedure. The clothes, I was just trying to protect the brand, she sobbed, tears of panic, not remorse, streaming down her face. You are the brand, Miss Finch, Robert said, echoing his earlier words, and you are toxic. At that moment, the captain, a silver-haired man named Captain Miles, emerged from the cockpit, having heard the commotion. He saw Robert Sinclair, and his face went white. Mr. Sinclair, Captain Miles exclaimed. Sir, we had no idea you were on the manifest. Welcome aboard. His eyes darted to the weeping purser and the tense galley. Is there a problem? There was a problem, Captain, Robert said, his voice flat. This employee, Ms. Finch, has just spent the last 10 minutes accusing my family of fraud and refusing them entry to the aircraft. Captain Miles's professional calm shattered. He looked at Lydia with pure disbelief. Lydia, what in God's name did you do? It was a mistake, she howled. Captain, Robert said, cutting her off. Ms. Finch is a liability. She is unprofessional, unstable, and a disgrace to the Astrolux name. She is not to fly. Not on this flight. Not on any flight. I want her credentials revoked, and I want her escorted off this plane, now. The order was absolute. It was not a request. It was a judgment. "Understood, sir," the captain said grimly. There was no hesitation. He looked at his purser of 10 years. "Lydia, hand me your badge and your company ID. Now."
"David, please,"
she begged, using his first name.
"David, don't. It was—"
They looked. "I didn't know." "That's the whole point, Lydia," the captain snapped, his own anger flaring. "It shouldn't matter if you knew. Give me the ID." Shaking so badly she could barely unclip it, Lydia handed over her credentials. Her career, her identity, her entire life of perceived superiority. All gone. "Mark," the captain ordered the gate agent. "Call Port Authority. Have security meet us at the gate to escort a former employee from the terminal. She is not to be allowed back in any Astrolux crew area." "Yes, Captain," Mark said, already on his radio. "Ben," the captain said to the junior attendant, "you're now lead flight attendant for the first class cabin. Get these passengers settled immediately. Champagne, hot chocolate for the children, whatever they want. And apologies. Profuse apologies." "Yes, Captain," Ben said, snapping to attention. Robert, Sarah, and the girls finally settled into their plush suites. As Lydia Finch, now just a woman in a uniform, was led past them by the captain, she gave Robert one last, desperate, pleading look. Robert Sinclair just turned his head and looked out the window at the wing. He was already thinking about the fallout. This wasn't just about one employee. It was about the entire system that allowed her to flourish. The flight to London was, for the Sinclair family, a recovery. For the other passengers in first class, it was a silent, 9-hour spectacle. The tension was thicker than the pressurized air. Every click of a seatbelt, every request for water, was hushed, as if no one wanted to draw the attention of the quiet man in seat 2B, who had just vaporized a 25-year career. Ben, the junior attendant, was a ghost of himself. He was pale, his hands shaking so badly he could barely pour a glass of champagne. He approached Robert's suite, his head bowed. "Mr. Sinclair, sir, I don't have words. I am so sorry. What you did, what I didn't do. There's no excuse." Robert looked up from his laptop. His eyes were not angry. They were cold with a chilling clarity. "You're right, Ben. There is no excuse. Not for her, and not for you." "Sir, please," Ben whispered, tears welling in his eyes. "You have to understand. I'm on probation. I have a new baby. She's Lydia. She ends people. She can get you put on the reserve list for a year, get you stuck on domestic red-eyes. She would have had me fired. I was scared. She would have written you up, Ben," Robert said, his voice cutting. "She would have bullied you. And you let that fear outweigh the basic human decency of protecting 2 children. You watched. You were complicit in her cruelty." Sarah leaned over from her seat. "Robert, he's just a kid. He was terrified." "He's an adult, Sarah," Robert said, not taking his eyes off Ben. "And he's wearing our uniform. That uniform means he represents me. And he failed. But—" he paused, seeing the genuine, pathetic terror in the young man's face. "She really had that much power." Ben nodded, a tear rolling down his cheek. "You don't understand. We call her Lydia the Lion. She controls the JFK routes. She decides who gets the good trips and who suffers. She was untouchable." "She was," Robert repeated, past tense. "Now get me the access codes for the executive satellite Wi-Fi, the high-speed one, and get my daughters a hot chocolate, with extra whipped cream and sprinkles. They've earned it." As Ben scurried away, Robert Sinclair opened his encrypted laptop. The cabin lights dimmed for the transatlantic night, but his screen glowed. He was not just a passenger, he was a CEO at 40,000 feet, and he was about to perform open-heart surgery on his own company. His first message was a secure text to Brenda Walsh, his global head of human resources, a woman who had once fired an entire department for expense fraud. Her time zone was New York. It was 3 p.m. RS. Wake up. Code red. I am on AL 100. Pull the entire 25-year file for purser Lydia Finch. I want every passenger complaint, every sensitivity flag, every written warning. I want the name of the manager who protected her. You have 1 hour. Brenda's reply was immediate. BW. On it. An hour later, as Maya and Mia slept soundly in their lie-flat beds, the encrypted file landed in Robert's inbox. He opened it. It was worse than he imagined. It wasn't just 18 complaints. It was a clear, decades-long pattern of bigoted behavior. March 2019. Complaint from Mr. Adebayo. Purser Finch used exclusionary language, implied I had stolen my upgrade. October 2021. Complaint from Ms. Kim. Purser Finch publicly shamed me for my low-grade carry-on while ignoring other passengers. February 2024. Complaint from Mr. Ramirez. Purser Finch told me, I'm surprised your kind sees the value in this cabin. And on every single file, one name appeared. Resolved by Ron Sterling. Counseled by Ron Sterling. Final warning, given by Ron Sterling. Robert's fingers flew across the keyboard. His first email was back to Brenda Walsh. Subject, immediate action, Finch and Sterling. Brenda, I have the file. Ron Sterling is the rot. Put him on forced administrative leave, effective immediately. Cut his access to all systems. I will deal with him personally when I land. Draft Lydia Finch's termination package. No severance. No payout. Cite gross misconduct and catastrophic brand damage. Freeze her health benefits, effective midnight. Revoke all travel privileges for her, her spouse, her family, everyone on her list, permanently. I want her to land and find out she's a ghost in our system. His second email was to Mark Jennings, his chief legal counsel. Subject, urgent, prepare for litigation. Finch, L. Mark, we have a major incident on AL 100. Purser, Lydia Finch, fired for cause. She will be litigious. I want you to prepare a countersuit. Pull her file from HR. We are not settling. We are going on the offensive. I want her blacklisted from the global airline database for gross passenger misconduct. Make an example of her. His final email was to Marcus Thorne, his head of communications. Subject, brand crisis opportunity. Marcus, clear my schedule. We are breaking a story ourselves. Astrolux CEO witnesses discrimination, takes immediate action. We will control this. This isn't a scandal. It's a new standard. Start drafting the Astrolux promise. No more bad apples. We are cleansing the orchard. The hard karma for Lydia Finch began before the plane's wheels even touched down at Heathrow. When she was escorted back to the terminal at JFK, she wasn't just fired. She was met at the jet bridge by the Port Authority police, who took a full report for passenger harassment and disturbance. She was then led to the office of Astrolux's North American operations manager, a man who had already been on the phone with Robert. She was read a formal letter of termination. Her company ID was cut in half with scissors. Her company-funded health insurance was terminated. Her 401k and pension, which she was 2 years from collecting, were frozen pending a legal review for damages incurred. Her flight privileges were permanently revoked. She was blacklisted. Lydia, predictably, hired a lawyer. A small firm on Long Island took the case, smelling a big, wrongful termination, payday. They filed a suit for $5 million, citing age discrimination and emotional distress. Astrolux's legal team, on Robert Sinclair's direct orders, did not just respond. They countersued her for $10 million in brand damages and reputational harm. In the discovery phase, They didn't just release her file, they attached affidavits from 12 of the previous 18 victims they had tracked down, all of whom were now willing to testify. Her lawyer read the file. He saw the mountain of evidence. He saw the witness statements from Ben and 2 other crew members. He saw the name Robert Sinclair on the countersuit. He called Lydia. "Lydia," he said, "we're dropping the suit. Now." "What?" "You can't." "I can. This isn't a case. This is a public execution. They're not just firing you. They're going to make you pay for their new training program. You will lose your house. You will lose everything." The lawyer quit. The union, seeing the evidence, dropped her membership, citing conduct unbecoming. She was alone. The final crushing blow came a month later. After her savings had been drained, she tried to apply for a job at a rival international carrier. The interview went well, until the HR manager typed her name into the global airline database. "Ah," the manager said, his smile tightening. "Lydia Finch, I'm afraid there's a permanent flag on your file. Global database. Gross passenger misconduct. Do not hire." "I'm sorry, Ms. Finch, but you'll never work in this industry again." Lydia was ruined. At 58, with no other skills, she was unemployable. The power she had wielded was an illusion, and the man she had insulted had shattered it. Her last known job was working at a perfume kiosk in a suburban New Jersey mall, a 2-hour bus ride from the apartment she was about to be evicted from. The 9-hour flight to London was not a rest. For Sarah and the girls, it was a slow recovery, buffered by the plush duvets of the first-class suites and the frantic, almost comical service of a terrified Ben. He brought the girls sundaes before the main meal, offered Sarah wine from the ultra-reserve list, which Robert didn't even know they had, and generally treated them like a visiting royal family who had just survived an assassination attempt. But for Robert Sinclair, it was a 9-hour declaration of war. He sat in seat 2B, the faint roar of the Rolls-Royce engines, a backdrop to the furious tapping of his thumbs on his encrypted phone. The plane's satellite Wi-Fi, usually reserved for light email, was straining under the data he was pulling. Sarah leaned over from her suite. "Robert," she whispered. "Look at me." He looked up. His eyes were cold, not with the fire of rage, but with the ice of calculation. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm angry," he said, his voice dangerously low. "But not like you. You're a mother. You're angry she hurt our children. I'm a CEO. I'm angry she exposed a multi-billion-dollar vulnerability in my company. She wasn't an employee. She was a symptom of a systemic cancer. What are you doing?" "I'm performing surgery," he said. He turned back to his phone. His first email was to Brenda Walsh, his global head of human resources, a woman known for her surgical lack of sentiment. Subject: urgent and confidential. AL100. Pull file. Finch, Lydia. Brenda, I am on board, AL100. The purser, Lydia Finch, has just been terminated for cause, mid-flight. I want her 25-year service record on my desk before I land. I don't want the sanitized summary. I want every single passenger complaint, every sensitivity flag, every verbal warning. I want the name of every manager who signed off on resolving these issues. This is a code red. His second email was to Marcus Thorne, his head of communications. Subject: hold, potential brand crisis. AL100. Marcus, we have a major incident. Do not speak to any press. A full top-down zero-tolerance policy is being drafted. I will lead the messaging on this personally. The narrative will be one of total public accountability. Get ready. His third was to James Cromwell, his London-based COO. Subject: emergency board meeting. 700 GMT. James, wake up the board. I want a full, mandatory emergency session at the London HQ the moment I land. Conference in the New York team. The agenda is corporate culture failure. He spent the next 4 hours reading. As the plane crossed the Atlantic, Brenda Walsh, pulling an all-nighter in New York, began feeding him the files. And they were damning. Lydia Finch was not a bad apple. She was a rotten orchard. March 2019. Complaint from a passenger, Mr. Adebayo, claiming Miss Finch repeatedly asked to see his boarding pass, implying he was in the wrong business cabin. Resolution. Counselled by manager Ron Sterling. Passenger given 10,000 miles. October 2021. Complaint from a passenger, Ms. Kim, who was told her designer carry-on looked fake and needed to be gate-checked, while passengers with similar bags were not. Resolution. Verbal warning on passenger perception by Ron Sterling. Passenger given a $200 voucher. February 2024. Complaint from a passenger, Mr. Ramirez, who upgraded at the gate and was told by Ms. Finch, "Oh, I'm surprised your kind sees the value in this cabin." Resolution. Final written warning by Ron Sterling. Passenger given a full refund and 50,000 miles. 18 separate incidents, all handled by the same man, Ron Sterling, the JFK in-flight services manager. 18 times Sterling had chosen to resolve the issue by buying the passenger's silence with miles and vouchers while protecting his most efficient purser. Robert closed his phone. The surgery was about to begin, and the first incision would be Ron Sterling. They didn't go to their London home. A black, armoured Audi S8 was waiting on the tarmac, a privilege Robert rarely used. It whisked them directly to the Astrolux corporate headquarters on the Thames. Sarah took the girls to the family suite on the top floor, a soundproofed apartment Robert kept for overnight work. Robert walked into the glass-walled boardroom. It was 7:05 a.m. The London team was there, pale and clutching coffee. The New York team, including Brenda Walsh and Marcus Thorne, was on the massive video wall, looking grim. "Good morning," Robert said, his voice flat. He remained standing. "As some of you know, my family and I were racially profiled and publicly humiliated by one of our own senior crew members yesterday. This is not a PR problem to be handled. This is a cancer we will cut out. Today," he looked at the screen, "Brenda, Ron Sterling." Brenda's face was all business. "Ron Sterling, 28-year employee, manager, in-flight services, JFK. He's Lydia Finch's direct supervisor. As you saw, he has personally buried 18 discrimination complaints against her." "Why?" Robert asked the room. James Cromwell, the COO, cleared his throat. "Sir, I looked at his file. Sterling's department runs on skeleton crews. He's perpetually understaffed. Lydia Finch, for all her issues, has the lowest sick day record in the fleet and the highest on-time departure rating. She's ruthless. Sterling didn't see her as a liability. He saw her as efficient." "He traded decency for efficiency," Robert said. "He valued a 90-second earlier departure over the dignity of our passengers. Get him." "He's in New York, sir," Brenda said. "It's 2 a.m. there." "I don't care if he's on the moon," Robert snapped. "Get him on a video call, now." 10 minutes later, a new face popped up on the screen. He was in a rumpled t-shirt, his eyes blurry with sleep. "Mr. Sinclair?" "Brenda, what's going on?" "Mr. Sterling," Robert said, his voice cutting through the man's confusion. "I'm calling you about Lydia Finch." Ron Sterling's demeanor shifted instantly. He tried to get ahead of the problem. "Yes, sir. A terrible, terrible incident. I saw the flash report from the captain. I've already processed her termination paperwork. A disgrace. A real bad apple. I plan to—" "Stop talking," Robert said. The room went silent. "I have her file in front of me, Ron, And your name is on every page. Counseled. Verbal warning. Resolved. You didn't just fail to stop her. You enabled her. You protected her for a decade. You cost this company millions in vouchers and miles just to keep her poison in our ecosystem. Ron's face went white. Sir, you have to understand. She's a senior purser. Her union reps. It's a process. Mr. Ramirez, February 2024. I'm surprised your kind sees the value in this cabin. Do you remember that, Ron? I had a firm talk with her. You gave him 50,000 miles, and you gave her a final warning, which, given the 17 warnings before it, clearly meant nothing. You were supposed to be the guardian of our brand at our most important hub. You weren't a manager. You were a co-conspirator. Mr. Sinclair, please, Ron begged, his career evaporating before his eyes. I have 28 years here. And Lydia had 25, Robert said. You're both done. Brenda, terminate his employment. Effective immediately. Revoke his pension. I want a full audit of the entire JFK in-flight division. Find anyone else Ron counseled and fire them too. He motioned to Brenda, who simply clicked a button. Ron Sterling's face vanished from the screen. Robert turned to the room. 1. Now the rest. Marcus, the story is going to leak. An entire first-class cabin saw it. So we're going to break it ourselves. Marcus Thorne paled. Sir, a self-inflicted wound. The stock will recover, Robert said. My company's soul is what's at stake. We will not hide. We will not no comment. We will own this. We will draft a public statement from me, admitting we failed. We will announce a new, mandatory, top-to-bottom retraining of all 22,000 employees, and we will call it the Astrolux Promise. I want the first training video scripted by the end of the day. A training video, sir? On what? On this incident, Robert said, and I know just the man to star in it. Back in New York, Ben, the junior attendant, was in a cold sweat at his apartment, having just landed. He hadn't slept. He was convinced his career was over for just being there. His phone rang. The caller ID said Astrolux Corporate. He picked it up, his hand shaking. Hello? Ben? This is Robert Sinclair. Ben's heart stopped. Mr. Sinclair, sir, I am so sorry. I didn't know what to do. That's the problem, Ben. Robert's voice came through, not angry, but heavy. You saw a crime being committed, and yes, what she did was a form of assault, and you did nothing. You let her make my daughters cry. Why? Ben was choking on his words. Sir, I have a baby, a mortgage. It's my first 6 months off probation. She's Lydia Finch. She ends people. If I'd spoken up, I'd be fired right now. I was scared. I know, Robert said, and that's my failure. I've built a company where a monster like Lydia has more power than a good man like you. So we're going to fix it. I'm reassigning you. Sir, please, Ben begged. I'll take any route. I'll clean the lavs. Just don't fire me. I'm not firing you, Ben. I'm promoting you. You're being reassigned to the Global Training Division. You are now the face of the bystander imperative, a new core value at this company. You are going to be in the training video. You're going to fly to every hub, LAX, JFK, London, Dubai, and you are going to stand in front of every new hire class, and you are going to tell them your story, the story of how you were scared, and you're going to tell them why they never have to be scared again. Ben was openly weeping. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Don't thank me, Ben, Robert said. This isn't a reward. This is your penance, and it's your redemption. Don't let me down. Next on the list, Mr. Henderson, the passenger in 3A. Robert was now in his office. His executive assistant, Grace, a woman with the efficiency of a Swiss watch, stood with a notepad. "The passenger in 3A, Robert said. "The one who said, 'Get the riffraff out of here.' I have his name from the manifest. George Henderson. He's a Diamond Medallion for Life member." "Yes, sir," Grace said. "He flies with us 200,000 miles a year. He's a managing director at a major private equity firm, a very high-value account." "He's a liability," Robert said. "He didn't just witness the harassment, he encouraged it. He poured gasoline on the fire. Pull his status." Grace's pen froze. "Sir, his entire status. For life?" "Life, in this case, is over," Robert said. "Revoke it, permanently. I want him back to 0. No points, no lounge access, nothing. Then, I want you to find out which one-world partners he's linked with. Send a passenger conduct notification to American, BA, and Cathay. Flag his AidVantage number. He's their problem now. Sir, his firm has a major corporate account with us. And I'm sure they'll be fascinated to learn that their managing director spends his travel time inciting the harassment of children. Send a letter to their CEO. Quote Mr. Henderson verbatim. Inform them that, due to his conduct, he is no longer welcome to fly Astrolux Airlines." Grace finally smiled. "Yes, sir. With pleasure." The karma for Mr. Henderson was swift. He landed in London, waltzed up to the Astrolux Arrivals Lounge, and his card was declined. "I'm sorry, Mr. Henderson," the agent said. "Your status appears to have been voided." His corporate card was cancelled for all Astrolux travel. His CEO, furious at the embarrassment, put him on a no-travel restriction and launched an internal conduct review. By encouraging Lydia, Henderson had effectively grounded himself and put his own multi-million-dollar career in jeopardy. And then there was Lydia. Her hard karma was more than just a firing. When she was escorted from the terminal at JFK, she was met by Port Authority police, who took a full report for passenger harassment and disturbance. She was charged with no crime, but the report was filed. She hired a lawyer, a pit bull from a small Long Island firm, and filed a massive lawsuit for wrongful termination, age discrimination, and emotional distress. She claimed she was a loyal employee of 25 years, made a scapegoat by a billionaire owner. Astrolux's legal team, on Robert's command, did not settle. They countersued, and they filed a motion for discovery, making her entire 25-year complaint file a matter of public record. Her lawyer read the file, the 18 complaints, the "your kind" comment, the bad apple report from Ron Sterling, who was now also suing them. He read the witness statements from Ben and 2 other attendants. He read the transcript of the cockpit voice recorder, which had picked up Lydia shrieking, "I want them all off!" He called her. "Lydia, we're dropping the suit. Now." "What? You can't!" "I can. They're going to destroy us. They have a mountain of evidence that you're not just a bad apple. You're a serial harasser. And they have a countersuit for brand damages that will bankrupt you for the rest of your life. Drop it or I'm quitting." She dropped the suit. But the file was already public. The aviation blogs found it. Flyer Talk, The Point Sky, Aero Insider. Her name, her face, her 25 years of bigotry, all laid bare for the industry to see. She was blacklisted, not just from Astrolux, but from every partner airline. Her global credentials were revoked. She was, in airline parlance, a ghost. She applied for a senior purser position at a major Middle Eastern airline. The interview was over Zoom. The recruiter was polite until he typed her name into the global database. "Ah," he said, his face hardening. "I see. You are the Lydia Finch from the AL-100 incident. My apologies. This interview is over." She tried low-cost carriers. Sunsprint Air. Breeze. Lydia, the Sunsprint hiring manager said, not even looking up from his computer. Your file is flagged. Do not rehire. Gross passenger misconduct. No one in this industry will touch you. Not as a purser, not as a gate agent, not even as a baggage handler. You're done. 6 months later, Lydia Finch was standing behind a glass counter at a perfume kiosk in the Roosevelt Field Mall. Her feet ached. Her uniform was a cheap polyester blazer. Her power was reduced to asking shoppers, "Would you like to try our new scent? Sublime?" One afternoon, a young mother, who looked strikingly like Sarah Sinclair, pushed a stroller past. Lydia flinched instinctively and turned away, pretending to organize the bottles. She, who had once patrolled the gilded cabins of the A350 like a queen, could not even make eye contact with a customer who reminded her of her downfall. She had spent her life judging who belonged, and now she was the one who belonged nowhere. The final ripple was the one Robert intended all along. The Astrolux promise was rolled out with blinding speed. The training video, starring a humble and visibly ashamed Ben, was unsparing. It used the real incident, the real quotes, and the real consequences. The new Passenger Bill of Rights was posted on every Astrolux jet bridge. Article 1, all passengers will be treated with equal dignity, regardless of cabin class, attire, race, or origin. Article 2, visual profiling is banned. A valid ticket is the only requirement for boarding. Article 3, the bystander imperative. All employees have a protected, anonymous duty to report any crew member, regardless of seniority, who violates these articles. Failure to do so is a terminable offense. Article 4, the Henderson Clause. Any passenger encouraging or participating in the harassment of another passenger or crew member will have their ticket voided and will be permanently banned from the airline. The press, led by Marcus Thorne, framed it not as a scandal, but as a revolution in accountability. After a 48-hour firestorm and a 3% dip in stock, the narrative turned. Astrolux was praised for its radical, painful transparency. Bookings climbed. A month later, Robert was at home in his study. Maya and Mia ran in. They had been flying again, this time with their mother to see their grandmother. "Daddy, Daddy," Maya said, holding up a small laminated card. "Look what the pilot gave me." It was a small Junior Wings pin, but on the back was a new logo. It was a simple drawing of two stick-figure sisters holding hands. Underneath, it read, "Kindness first, the Astrolux promise." "The man," Mia said. "The one named Ben, he was on our flight. He said to say, 'Hello.' He said he tells our story every day, so no one is ever mean again." Robert pulled his daughters into a hug, burying his face in their hair. He had wielded his immense power like a weapon, tearing down careers and rebuilding a company. He had done it all with the cold precision of a titan, but as he held his daughters, he knew it wasn't about the stock price, or the brand, or even the law. It was because he was a father, and he had shown them, and the world, that there was no power on earth greater than that. The story of Lydia Finch is a hard lesson in karma. It shows that prejudice isn't just an ugly thought. It's an action with real-world consequences. She thought she was judging two children who didn't belong, but in reality, she was the one who didn't belong in a position of trust. Her 25-year career was vaporized in 25 seconds, not because she insulted an owner, but because she revealed her true character. What do you think? Was her firing enough, or was the corporate-wide retraining the real justice? How many Lydias are out there in the world, wielding small bits of power? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story of justice being served resonated with you, please hit that like button. share it with someone who needs to see it, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more true life stories where karma delivers the final verdict.